This is going to be the JavaScript project-based tutorial in which we're going to create this YouTube timestamp generator application. Now, this is really helpful when you have a YouTube channel and you create videos which require chapters in your videos. I've already created a review video of this application on my YouTube channel. There is a card on the top right, so you can click on that to watch that video. This application will help us to generate these timestamps properly formatted by using these 4 input fields and just clicking on this submit button. So I'm going to quickly go through by adding some timestamp. First, let's refresh the page. So we just say first entry, I will add a time. Let's say this is starting from 000, enter, and then we have the properly formatted timestamp for YouTube description. Code we've written will allow us to navigate to this application without a mouse. So once you create an entry, it will automatically go back to input field for text and then focuses on that. And if you have any error, it will take you where the error occurs. So this is going to be a good project for anybody who are just starting out with JavaScript. I will be using VS Code as a text editor. You can follow along with your favorite text editor, so feel free to fire up your favorite one and let's get started. I've already opened a folder in VS Code and I'm going to create 3 new files. I'll click on this plus button. We need 3 files: index.html, app.js, and style.css. In index.html file, I'm going to use this HTML5 tag. So this is an extension which helps me to generate some boilerplate code for index.html. I'll press enter. So here we have a doc type and we have HTML lang to en. We got a head tag and then the body. So first of all, let's add the title. And we are going to call our application title to YouTube timestamp generator. Next, we are going to attach our style.css file. I'm going to use link tag. And at this stage, we have the style file attached to this index.html. I'm going to go into the body, and the last line of the body would be script tag, and the source will be app.js. VS Code has this extension which allows to run this HTML file with its dependencies on the live server. So I'm going to use that. But first, let's finish some markup in our index.html. So in the body tag, first of all, we are going to create a div and I'm going to give an ID, would be app title. And we're going to use h1 YouTube Next, we're going to create a div with a class of grid container. And within that div, we are going to create another div with the class of timestamp form. Let's start by creating a form. It's a plain HTML form, and in this form, we're going to have a first input field, which will be typed as text, and then ID would be title, and then here's a placeholder, timecode title. Then we're going to create another div, and the ID for that would be time. And within this div, we're going to have 3 input fields with number type and 1 button with a submit type. I'm going to paste the code here instead of just typing it out, and just to save time, right? So you guys should know HTML already. So this is particularly the JavaScript that we're going to learn. So here we got input field, type number, and then the minimum is 0, and then max is 60 for, let's say, minutes, 64 seconds, and for hours we have 12. And then all of them are required. And we're going to go to, after saving this file, we're going to open the style file. And I'm actually going to paste the style. Pretty much, you know, this is just the CSS. So you guys can take a look at that because you're going to get the repository of this code as well. It's the CSS here. And we have the CSS for the body. We just specify the margin 50 and just the background color. Then for the app title, here's the CSS for that. Then we're using this plain grid container class to create a grid. And we also have this grid container greater than div, and this is the property for the div. To click on this go live button, creating that HTML and CSS file, this is what we have. Now I'm going to go back to VS Code and we're going to start working with app.js file. Let's start by defining some functions. So we're going to need 3 functions. First of all, let's write them out. A function which will help us to create time string. A function to render time string on DOM. And we need a function to add timestamp. We are going to define 2 variables. First variable will be index. We set the value to 0. Second one is last date. We set that value to 0 as well. We're also going to need to access these input fields for a data. Let's do proper indentation for this. Save the file. Now we're going to grab the ID for all of these 3 input fields and then use those to access the DOM. I'll go back and then I'll start with, let's say, var title equal to document query selector. And then we are going to query via ID. So the ID would be title. I'm going to make a copy of this and we'll change the name title to hours. This is going to be minutes and seconds. Let's change the ID. So that's hour, minutes, seconds. Open the application in the browser so we know what we are creating and if there are any errors. So I'm going to bring up Chrome and that's the state of our application. So if I click on submit, it doesn't do anything. So in the code, we are going to, first of all, go to index.html file. I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller so we could see the whole text. Now in the form tag, we are going to call a function on submit. And I'm going to call it add timestamp. Now let's go to app.js and I'll make sure I get the right spelling. So I'll just copy this bit and then make sure that I pasted it right. Now, once I do that, it's not going to find a function because it's not ready yet. So let's go and then uncomment this, add curly brackets, and we're going to say log clicked. Now I'm going to open a console for this and I'm going to click on the submit button and you will see in the log, it says click, but it is actually, reloading the page every time you click it. To fix this, we are going to call another function within our form element on submit. So I'll say event dot prevent default and add a semicolon, save the file. And now if I click, you see it is not reloading the page anymore and I can see the result. Go back to app.js and I'm going to uncomment these functions as well. Work on render time string function. So if we need to access the DOM of timestamps, we need to create that div. I'm going to go back to index.html file. And here we are going to add another div just after the form div finishes. So here we're going to give a class equal to, I'm going to name it timestamp preview. And then we are going to create an auto list and we're going to give it ID to timestamps. Okay, now this is what we want to access. We'll go back to our app.js file and I'm going to access that timestamp. Start by creating variable ul equal to document.query selector, and then we are trying to access timestamps. I just want to make sure that I have the proper ID. Usually this can be a little trickier when you have a typo. So now we got access to this timestamp div. Next, we are going to create a list item. So what I'll do document.create element, and what we're trying to do is li. Next, I'm going to use this li and use the inner HTML property. We set that equal to a template string. I'll add a variable first of all there, and then I will call a function create time string, which is going to be this function, and then dash another variable title.value. So here's going to be the title, whatever you type in this field. This is going to grab that title and then just append that. Next, we are going to append this to UL. So ul.append child, and let's use this li element. Okay, so render time string is all good. Now let's work on this create time string. So first of all, let's create a constant. I'll say time array, and we are going to grab the values from all of these variables. So what I'll do is I'll use this hours.value, minutes.value, and seconds.value. Once we have these in array, then let's create a variable. I'll use var, and I will leave that empty for now. I'm going to use this time array.for each, and let's iterate over these, and let's create e equal to, we just convert that to string, make sure this is string. So e.length, I'll explain this in a bit, equal to 1. Then we are going to use this time equal to time.concat, and we are going to concat this 0 plus e plus, and then this colon. So this is just like a formatter for us. So if the length for this is basically not 1 and it's more than 1, which I will explain to you in a bit, then we're going to go into else clause. We can set time equal to time.concat, and we're just going to concat e plus this. All right, and then we are going to just return time string. Now inside our add timestamp function, so let's create a variable first. So I'll use a constant. I'll say current date equal to, and this will be hours dot value plus minutes dot value plus seconds dot value, and we do a log first of current date. Okay, let's save the file. I'm going to click on submit button, and you'll see this 000, and now we are able to read the values from this bit here. And if I make a change to value 111 and I click on submit, you'll see 111 in the DOM. So we're getting this current date from these 3 HTML elements, and we're just queuing that. I'm going to write some text here, and I'm going to change this to, let's say, 2 submit. It's going to give me an error because the maximum that we've set in HTML is 12 for this, 60. You can change that to 24 if you want to just allow that. So let's change that to 24 actually. I'll write a string, then we got the values that are basically coming up, submit, and we got this value 32, 45. Now we need to, format these. So let's go to our app.js file, and within this function, I am going to say if index, which is 0 at the time when we start our application right above here, if it's 0, or we just use a parse int to pass that current date into int, because this is not the type of int, it's a string. So just to make sure it is an integer, we say current date greater than parse int last date. Okay, so last date is set to 0 for now. Okay, so if that's the case, index is 0 or parse in current date greater than this, then we need to render time string. And once it is rendered, then we can say last date equal to current date. Then we're gonna do index plus plus. Okay, let's save this file and let's see what happens. So I'm going to type and then change the values like that, submit, and you will see that we have this time string is being. Click on submit again. Right now it's not creating another entry. The reason for that is it is checking if the parse int current date is greater than the last date. So if I make a copy of this and comment this bit, and I'm going to just remove this logic here, I'll save the file and I will add an entry and then change this number entry. It is not adding that as well. So I'm going to completely remove this if. Save the file and I'll type some text here, submit, 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 and you can see it is just making an entry. Now in YouTube, when you have the timestamp, you want to make sure that you don't repeat that time. So to add that functionality, we had this if. So I'm going to remove this line, uncomment this, uncomment this. Save the file, and now if I type a text, time, and you get to see there's a time string. If I click on submit again, it does not increment. So if I'm going to change the time value, submit, it adds. So I'll change again, adds, but if I just move it back to whatever the previous time was, click, it still adds 0 to 4. So it logic basically not checking if the time is actually greater than the last time. So to do that fix, we're going to add some logic to our add stem. I'm going to use this else clause here, and I'm going to say window.alert, and I'm going to say increment the time, and then click on text, add some time, submit. Now we can see that if the time is not changed or not incremented, then it will give you alert saying increment the time. Click OK. Let's increment the time, click submit, and you get another entry. Increment the time, click, and you get the entry. And it keeps a state of the input that you had. So this way you can basically use keyboard, right? So I'm gonna avoid using mouse and try to add some entries. So I'll say first entry, then I would like to, once I add this, I would like to focus on this input field, but clear the text. So what I can do in the code, I will go ahead and then access the title dot value. I will set that to empty string, and then also I'll make sure that title is focus. So title dot focus function. Save, and now I'm going to add first entry. I'll enter, and now you can see it clears the text there, and it also focuses on this input field. Now I'm going to press actually type second entry, tab, change the value, and change the value here as well. Click on submit or press enter. We'll have another entry. I'll press enter again. It says increment the time, but it goes back and then focuses on input field because that's like we should be starting from, right? So let's say third entry, enter, still increment the time. It clears out. third entry, and then I'm going to increment time, enter, and you get the entry. Now also, if we have this increment the time, we should not actually go ahead and then do this, clean up this time code title and then just focuses there. So what I would like to do is I would like to focus on the hours field. So I'll say hours.focus. I'll save the file. Now I'll say first entry, enter, second entry, enter. Now when I click on OK or enter, you will see it is going back to this title code. So it actually focused on it, but it actually gone back to this line, which actually focused on this time string. So what I would like to do here is I am going to cut this bit and then paste it here. This way we don't clear the value for the title until it is successfully rendered. Modify this bit here. I'm getting this else clause. Instead of this else clause, I would like to have this else if clause. And I'm going to use this bit. I'll copy this, paste it here, and I will say equal to or greater than. Okay, actually less than. Then inside this, we are going to show this increment the time, and we focuses on the hour. Then we have this else clause. So if nothing matches, okay, then we are going to use windows.alert error. And then we are going to copy these two lines and paste them here as well. A wrong logical operator here, so that would be less than equal to. I will save the file, and now I'm going to type some string there, increment the value, submit, click again. Now we have increment the value, click OK. Then I'm going to type some string there. I will increment the value right there. We have another entry. I'll type another string, and instead of just increasing, I'm gonna just reduce it. Let's say this. Submit. It should say increment the time. Now if I add another hour or minute, it still say. So what I would like to do is make sure that the time is like incremented. So 1 to 1. Let's increment that, submit, and now we get to see we have another entry. So the logic here is working good. We got all the scenarios covered. Now we're going to work on some formatting part. We had a logic to format this properly, but the reason why this logic wasn't working is because we have this typo. So we're going to change this to length. I'll save the file, and we go to source, and then I'm going to add a debugger here and debugger there. I'm going to start with first entry, and we will add 1, 34, and let's say 45. I'll click on submit, and now because the length is 1, it is going to concatenate this 0 string with E, which makes it 0, 1. I'll run it, and next time, because we have 2 characters, length is 2. That's why it went inside this else clause, and time is already 0, 1. So we are going to actually update this with just E and then add this colon. Run it again, and now we have this formatted string. Now, one more issue that we have to fix is this colon, the last colon that we have. Now, that's very easy to fix. So here we are going to, let's say, add a logic. So we can say dot splice, and I'm going to say 0 minus 1. So basically, I'm going to remove the last character. I'll save the file, and I'll type first entry, submit, and we'll just deactivate the breakpoints, run it. Now you can see we have the properly formatted. Let's go with the second entry, add the time. Let's say second entry starts from 45 seconds. submit, then it focuses back to input field. Now if I go and add a third entry, and here I will remove this and I'll add, let's say, 4 minutes, enter. Now it says fill in this field, the proper error is getting logged. I'll add, let's say, 1. I'll submit, and now we get the entry. I'll add 4th entry. Then we are going to reduce time. Submit. Now it says increment the time. I click OK. Now it focuses on this input field hour. Creating timestamps are easy if you don't have to use mouse and then click on these input fields separately. So I will go ahead and then press tab. This will focus on the next input field for hour, and I'll say 1, and then tab again. Let's say 30 minutes and 30 seconds. I press enter. It automatically creates an entry and focus back to the text input field. I'll just say 5th entry, tab, type the value, tab, type the value, and then just enter, and it says fill in this field. So I can just fill in, let's say, what of the time, enter, and then you can see. Now at the end of the day, once you create all the timestamps, you can just copy this bit and paste in the YouTube video description, which will create the timestamps for you. So yeah, I hope this application helped, and there is a link for a GitHub repository for this application as well. So if you want to have a source code, you're more than welcome to take a look at that as well. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Cheers.